we are honored to invite one of our teachers, Mr. Sunny, to the stage to share the topic.
Who gave me a loud cheer at the end? Remind me to give you 10 extra points.
You should have given it to me last semester.
Sorry, Abigail. So when I was asked to give a TED talk on this topic, I did what everybody who is asked to give a talk here would do, is I panicked. And then I panicked for a while, and then I procrastinated for another 5 days. And then I started frantically Googling how to give a TED talk. And I learned that in order to give a good TED talk, I have to be full of lessons, and it has to look like it is chicken uncomfortable. So then I thought I should talk about my fears. The theme is fear, and I reflected. What am I scared of? And I realized that my fears change as I age. So if you ask me at age 5, what am I scared of? I would say, Barney the dinosaur. Think about this. It is something, even though Barney says he loves you, there is something deeply unsettling about a 6-foot purple dinosaur coming up to you and say, we love you. And I thought, fine, I grow up. What am I scared of at the age of 10? And I realized it must be Chucky. Even now, I cannot walk by from a toy store without actually suffering from PTSD because of this doll. And then I realized, okay, let's move on to 15. What is something that I'm most afraid of when I am 15? And the answer is very simple. My chemistry teacher. He who must not be named. Even now, I'm petrified of thinking of my chemistry teacher, and I'm 35. You look at this man and you feel the water inside your body evaporate just like water in a pot. That is how terrifying he was. But I slowly realized that all these are superficial fears. It doesn't force me to reflect deeper. As I reflect deeper and deeper, there is one deeply personal fear that I have that I want to talk to you about. And I will not end this talk with a story about how I overcome it, because I still suffer from this fear. But before that, we have to see, what is fear? Fear is our body's defense mechanism. As simple as that. It has been covered in a number of other talks. Whenever we are afraid, that tiny batch of neurons we call the amygdala activates and tells you to be scared of it. Fear is what saved our ancestors, as Victor said, when they went out hunting. But here is the thing. Our brain does not really differentiate between actual danger and perceived danger. Our brain really does not differentiate between, hey, I'm facing a tiger, or, hey, I'm afraid of being embarrassed in front of a crowd. Both of them trigger the exact same reaction. Today, I want to talk to you about a very deeply personal fear. It is the fear of mediocrity. I will not talk to you about fear of failure. Too many people have talked about fear of failure. I will also not talk to you about fear of success. You have to be deeply entitled to fear success. It is in self-help books. I want to talk to you about what happens when you are stuck in the middle. Let's define mediocrity. Mediocrity is being just good at something. Not excellent, that you are accomplished. Not bad, that you get kicked out of the room. It is that you are just right. If our life is a report card, mediocrity is a B-. A lifelong B-. A lot of people, just like us, because we work in a very competitive environment, end up fearing mediocrity. I am very similar. Imagine this. If I went to a very competitive high school in India. In my high school, being ranked 15th out of 300 meant your life is over. In my high school, when we get our report cards, friends don't ask, how are you doing? They would say, what did you score on that test? If I'd go home and say, tell my dad I scored a 95%, he would say, what happened to the other 5? In such an environment, when we are operating in such a competitive environment, we accept the fact that we either have to be excellent at something or we don't do that thing because we don't want to be mediocre. So my dad was a wonderful person, very mediocre in very many ways, but he hated mediocrity. So he said, you're allowed to be excellent at something or you're allowed to fail miserably at something. If you fail, at least there is a story. What you're not allowed to be is mediocre. And I sort of grew up being marinating in this fact that I'm not allowed to be mediocre. And I realized that this fear of mediocrity to me was paralyzing in nature. It would prevent me from starting things because I'm scared of not getting good at it. So, what do we mean by mediocrity? Not excellent, not terrible, just adequate. Now, I told you I still suffer from this fear, but I'm working on it. So imagine this. Every day I go back home. There are public parks everywhere in Beijing. There is a park near my house as well. As I walk to my house every day from that park, there are a bunch of ladies square dancing. All of us have seen square dancing ladies. But at the corner of the park, at the very corner, there is one guy sitting with a gigantic loudspeaker and playing this musical instrument called the pipa. I think many of you, what is a pipa? It is a musical instrument. In the right hand, it sounds amazing. In the right hand, it sounds like music is alive. This guy who plays pipa at the corner of the park does not have the right hands. So, I am 100% sure that the square dancing ladies have submitted a noise complaint against this guy who plays the pipa. Think about it. How ironic is the fact that we have square dancing ladies complaining about noise from somebody else. Usually everybody is complaining about noise from them. So every day I walk by this person, I just sit and observe. One time I sat in front of him, I observed. He looks up to me and he says, sing. That's it, a single letter, sing. Not, can you sing? Not, would you like to sing? A single letter, sing. My Chinese was not good enough to reply and honestly I was stunned. But it told me one thing. This person does not really care about the fact that he is objectively bad at playing this musical instrument. I'm not a very good musician, but I have ears. I can tell. Music appreciation is very different from being a musician. He assumed I also have no qualms about singing, and he did not even know if I could sing or not. He said, sing. Even though it's a work in progress, this person made me realize that he has something that I'm searching for. He is not afraid of mediocrity, and he is not afraid of being judged for it. Our minds tell us that one of the most persistent fears we have is the social evaluative threat. We are always afraid of being judged by other people. We are always afraid of making a mess of ourselves in front of other people, and that prevents us from starting something. I told you I went to a very competitive high school, but now I'm a teacher. I tell my students, excellence demands effort. If you have taken a single class of mine, you know I say that every day about 4 times. But it also made me realize I'm also 100% verifiably a hypocrite because I do not practice what I preach. I say excellence demands effort, but I don't start anything for fear of failure. I say well begun is half done, but at the same time I don't pick up the guitar because I know I will never be as good as Eddie Van Halen. I say all feedback is for you to improve, but I do not even take my own feedback in trying to start anything that I feel I would not get good at. And that is where the fear of mediocrity strikes. The fear of mediocrity is subtle. The fear of mediocrity does not make you feel petrified. The fear of mediocrity says, maybe I don't have the time to start something. Because if you don't start something and you don't measure what you are doing, you can always claim that I'm not good enough at it because I never actually tried it. The fear there is the fact that you don't feel you will become good enough. Now, why am I talking to you about this? I'm talking to you about this because as a teacher, I see this in the classroom every single day. People who are petrified of beginning to write an essay because they feel their essay would be mediocre. And they only begin writing their essay when the fear of failure overpowers the fear of mediocrity because they have to ultimately submit something. So, what do we do about it? Remember, I am not telling you that excellence is not important. Pursuit of excellence is what brought us here. In fact, if I tell you excellence is not important, you go back home and yet you tell your parents, hey, a teacher told us excellence is not important, and the next day we get a phone call from the parents who says, hey, why are you telling my kid excellence is not important? It is the antithesis of everything I have socialized them into believing. What I'm trying to tell you is, you can never be excellent at everything. So, TED Talks are all about lessons. I have two. Number one, find your anchor. An anchor is something, anything that you are excellent at. Or at least you are pursuing excellence in. In my case, it is teaching. I'd like to believe I'm fairly good at it. It's my pursuit of excellence in teaching that keeps me grounded. As long as you're excellent in one thing, that becomes a central, major part of your identity, you're allowed to be mediocre in everything else. Because that excellence tells you and it validates your opinion about yourself. And after that, you're allowed to be mediocre in everything. Number two, mind the gap. A lot of fear in our mind is not about external judgment, it is about internal gap. It is about where we are and where we want to be. In my case, it is about whether I want to pick up the guitar and whether I can be Eddie Van Halen. For those who know how to play the guitar, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Mind the gap. Fear of mediocrity lies in this gap. Once you realize that you don't really need to fill this gap, just like the pipa player, nobody really cares about what kind of pursuits you are pursuing unless they actively hate you. And in case somebody actively criticizes you for the fact that you're being mediocre, I would say you need a different set of friends. As long as we fill this gap, as long as we have an anchor, there is nothing wrong in pursuing activities for the fun of it. Now, how do I want to end this speech? I would end this speech again by being 100% verifiably a hypocrite. Because just like how we do in our classrooms, because a lot of you are my students, I will tell you, do as I say, not as I do. So, take this talk to be permission. This talk is permission for you to be joyfully, unapologetically mediocre at something. Because even if you are mediocre at something, it is still better than not starting to do something at all. Do it in the privacy of your home if you don't want public judgment. Or do it in a comfortable, supportive group of friends. But if there is anything that you have wanted to do, but you have been afraid that I would never be excellent at it, now is the time for you to start doing it. So, I would end this with a question. As you finish today, ask yourself this question. What would you like to be bad at this week? Because being bad at it is so much better than not having started it at all. Now, As my final sentence, I would say, as much as possible, I will try to practice what I preach and try to overcome my own fear of mediocrity. But if I cannot, take my word as a teacher and do as I say, not as I do.